Hey, my friends, welcome back to Pain to Passion Live. I'm super stoked because I get to talk to the beautiful and amazing Emmy Marie today. I have been following her for a couple years on Instagram, which has been so fun. We'll talk about that some more because I've been like thinking about just your growth and all that I've seen happening over in your area of influence. It's pretty incredible, but she is amazing. Thank you for being here today, my friend.
Thank you so much. Yeah, what a nice warm welcome. I am really grateful for that, and yeah, happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to dig deep and kind of hear more of your story, but I'd love for you. I have gone away from reading bios because I have found that when people introduce themselves, it gets a little juicy and get some
Sure.
good little tidbits in there. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, all that fun stuff?
Sounds good. Yeah, so I am Emmy. I am a trauma-informed coach and like NARM practitioner. So I primarily help people with some sort of hardship in their history, whether it was like abuse or neglect or something that they wouldn't quite use those terms for, but have led them to having a difficult time in their relationships or with their the way they relate to themselves or in their career or having some sort of obstacles. So I, try to do my best to help people with a trauma informed lens that really understands how our past experiences can impact our present and our future. And, using a non judgment, very compassionate space to help people reconnect to their own sense of power and agency in their life. So I do that. And then I create a lot of courses. I create a lot of content for Instagram and TikTok. And I'm just really passionate about sharing, my experiences of being a CPTSD survivor of abuse that has come a long way from where I used to be, and kind of using my experiences and training to help as many people as I can through social media and then obviously the work that I do. And I live in Portland, Oregon. I have a partner who is my fiance and a dog named Bernie that I love. And yeah, I work from home, doing my own business full time. And I like, going outside and reading books and eating and cooking in my spare time. But yeah, that's me.
I love it. And I love that I have another West Coast person on Zoom
Yeah,
with me today because usually I feel like I'm talking to people on the East Coast.
I feel that.
So this is exciting because I'm in
Yes,
Spokane, and you're in
nice.
Portland. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, right. And not even a Californian either. We're both in the Northwest, so
Yes, yes.
pretty
Yay, P and
special.
W.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and like I said, I've been following your work now for a couple of years and I have just noticed like such a beautiful growth like in you
Thank you.
personally what you share, but it's been amazing just to see how your influence has grown.
Thank you.
Like
Yeah.
even just over the course of the past year, I know you've shared a little bit of like your evolution even between 2021 and 2022, and
Yeah.
I'd love for you to share about that.
Sure.
But it's been really cool to see how your authenticity and your willingness to keep growing and
Oh,
changing and healing yourself has just expanded your influence.
thank
So
you.
I love that. I think it's amazing. But first, before we dive into that, I'd love to just hear a little bit about like your personal story and what brought you to this work because I love to lift up people's stories here. And the whole
Awesome.
purpose of like pain to passion is something happened,
Yeah.
right? But here you are doing this work, helping so many people heal. So, what was that journey like for
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. So, as I kind of mentioned earlier, I'm an abuse survivor. So, for me, that experience happened when I was a teenager in high school, and it was my first kind of real relationship. And going into it, I was someone who was, um, I guess, a hopeless romantic. I don't know, obsessed with love, very anxious attachment style, just like
Mm.
desperately wanting to find someone who like really saw me and just have some sort of experience like was represented in movies such as The
Mhm.
Notebook. I was obsessed with that. So I was really primed and ready to like fall super hard. And if anyone here is familiar with kind of the cycle of abusive relationships, at the beginning, there's often a lot of love bombing when someone just is this perfect person for you that you couldn't even fathom how much they love you. And this can happen to people in their 20s, 30s, whatever, any age, and it can be really deceiving, but let alone being a teenager when you are
Mhm.
not wise, you are brand new to this kind of experience, your hormones are raging on top of it all, and
Mhm.
you really have no prior life experience to compare it to. So I was just like, oh my God, like all my dreams are coming true, everything is amazing, I'm so in love with this guy. And then after about 3 months, which is also kind of like textbook, uh subtle forms of abuse started coming in, with a lot of kind of like little degrading comments here and there, suspicion, kind of like controlling behavior that started really small and really, to me, was kind of just an indication of like, oh, he just cares about me so much and loves me so much. So he's a little controlling, or like, oh, yeah, that was like a mean, hurtful comment, but it was just a joke. There was always
Mhm.
excuses to be made because it wasn't outright like physical violence or like screaming or like anything
Yeah.
really dramatic right away. So, as one might imagine, this started to just kind of deepen and evolve as our relationship went on. And so it was very like high highs, low lows. And I just, over the course of 3 years, got very used to being treated like an object, or like someone that doesn't really matter, coupled with constantly being told that I am, he's the only one that will ever love me. No one will ever get me like he does. I need him, like feeding all of these messages to appeal to like my attachment and my, the love that I did feel for him, coupled with just escalating and horrible abuse. Um,
Yeah.
so that went on, basically the end of freshman year to the end of senior year of high school. So I became progressively more and more like incredibly mentally ill, just like constantly anxious and depressed in equal measure, and really just was blaming myself for everything because that's the only thing I knew how to do.
Yeah.
And on the surface, I was just pretending to be fine. I was still doing really well in school. So there wasn't like those classic warning signs of like, she's failing at school or like really struggling. Like I kept up this really happy persona that kind of fooled a lot of people. A couple people broke through. My parents eventually figured it out, but never understood, quite the level that it was at.
Yeah.
So that's, a summary of that experience. Was able to finally leave in March of 2013, so at the end of my senior year. And then I really just kind of flung myself out into the world and did not know what trauma was, didn't know anything I was supposed to do other than be happy because it's over. And
Yeah.
really, authentically, I was kind of just in this mode of like euphoria, like, and I've talked to other survivors who can relate to this, where right after you might not feel traumatized, you might just feel so happy and so relieved
Mm.
that it's over. So that was my experience. I went to college, I moved to the Northwest um, for college and just tried to pretend none of that ever happened. I was heavily reliant on, drugs and alcohol for just having fun. I didn't consider myself an addict, but I was, it's a part of the college lifestyle anyways, but I had already learned that was a way for me to cope in the relationship I was in. I was already doing that. So kind of
Mhm.
just went with that, and really just ended up not having any relational skills and being like deeply disorganized, attachment style wise, and
Mhm.
kind of chasing after emotionally unavailable guys and running from anyone who was like truly supportive or secure. And that ended up getting me in another relationship at the end of my freshman year of college. So about a year later, that was, I describe as toxic. I think, sometimes the behavior in there was abusive, but more so, I think it was just very dysfunctional, very misaligned, where I was desperately needing someone to try to complete me or give me
Mm.
feelings of validation and support and love that I was desperately craving, because I had done absolutely no work on myself or therapy or anything. And he was very, emotionally unavailable, cold and just distant.
Mm.
And then, there were some aspects of it that crossed the line, but I was in that relationship for 2 years, definitely wasn't happy, but just kind of was gaslighting myself the whole time into thinking, well, he doesn't yell at you, he doesn't call you horrible names most of the time. He doesn't force you to have sex with him every day. So it's not that bad. It could be so much worse. It's fine. I'll take what I can get, which is a really common experience of sort of settling for scraps, because
Yeah.
we all want to be loved. But especially if you're someone that has this sort of like disorganized or anxious attachment style, you might be desperately feeling like you need someone to complete you.
Yeah.
So that went on for 2 years. And then I finally, once again, had sort of the breakthrough moment where I broke up with him. And then a couple months later is when my complex trauma symptoms really kicked in, because I was finally at a place where I wasn't like constantly triggered. I was like in a safe environment, not in one of these toxic relationships that really kept me occupied. And so all the symptoms from the original relationship kind of came and presented themselves. So for me personally, I experienced a lot of paranoia, anxiety, depression, flashbacks, nightmares, a lot of like emotional dysregulation, and really intense feelings of shame. And so that went on. I started dating someone, my current partner. We've been together for like 6.5 years. And at the beginning, I was just like, I am a terrible person. I don't deserve you. There's something wrong with me. Like, why are you so nice to me? Really just like, I don't understand how, like I could be in a healthy relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like I mentioned, that was kind of around 2016. I eventually started going to therapy because I like couldn't function as well, or like, I'd had days where I certainly couldn't function, and I was like, okay, fine, I guess this is a thing that I need help with. So thank God I went and got help.
Yeah.
Alongside therapy, I started just deep diving into lots of different books about trauma recovery, as well as kind of like mindfulness and spirituality, and just trying to find anything that would make me feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And I eventually moved to California and kind of just needed to have this like hermit mode where I had a couple friends, I didn't really know anyone, and I just spent a lot of time with myself, like actually tending to myself after so many years of like living for other people or chasing other people. So that just felt like kind of a sacred time for me. During it was very difficult because I was dealing with all these symptoms, but I was kind of doing the work. And then around 2019, I moved here to Portland, and I started reaching a place where I really wanted to kind of share my experiences with other people. So I kind of started posting on Instagram about like different things I would learn, or experiences I was having, or like creativity, artistic reflection, self-expression. And after a few months of doing that, like every day, just as kind of my like journal, I started kind of building a small following and finding other people that were doing similar things, and feeling like, oh, like I'm not alone. Like this is fantastic, because I have felt like I'm the only one who has ever gone through this for so long.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of built a community there, and then over time started really building a following. And then in 2020, with like COVID and everything, I started realizing that coaching exists, and there was ways that I could help other people with my writing and with my ability to hold space without being a therapist, which I kind of thought was the only way. So I got trained and certified throughout the year as a trauma-informed coach, and then later on a NARM practitioner, and just built my own business doing this. And it's felt incredibly natural and like unbelievably aligned. And as someone that came from, I was doing environmental science work before this, and that's what my college degree is in, that I love being outside, and I love, the environment, and I care about, things like climate change, but I don't have like the scientific brain. I'm more of like a people person, and I'm very like, I guess, emotionally intelligent. It feels kind of weird to brag about, like, whatever, but that is one of my
you
skill
totally
sets,
are.
is being emotionally intelligent. And I think a lot of trauma survivors can relate to having like a high level of empathy and ability to sit with people and like be with the real stuff. So I'm just like incredibly grateful to get to do this work and have it be a way to transform my experiences and help others. And so that's my story.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I think
Absolutely.
like you even said up front, like even people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, we're all looking for love. like, and for
Sure.
something or someone to complete us.
Right.
And without having the knowledge base to understand like your own value and
Right.
your own ability even to show up in the world like as yourself, you can
Yeah.
go your whole life living like that.
Totally.
And yes, of course, as a teenager, there's so many other things at play, just
Yeah.
developmentally and all of
Right.
that. But I think that's probably why part of the reason why you resonate with so many people of all different ages is because it's just relatable. And
Yeah.
a lot of the
Unfortunately.
time, it is.
I know.
It is
Yeah.
unfortunate because a lot of us do end up in these relationships that really are not serving us, but we don't know any better. So I
Right.
think it's pretty amazing to just see that. First of all, I'm so glad that you made it,
Thank
like that you
you.
made it
Thank
through.
you.
Thank
Yeah,
God
I
that
know.
you're here today. And just
Yes.
the tenacity that it took to recognize, like, okay, I need help, and
Yeah.
to go and find the help,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I'd be curious to
Totally.
know, like, what was that like for you? Because I have a lot of people ask
Mm,
me, like, how do I find the right therapist? How do I get the help that
sure.
I need? What did you
Sure.
do? What really drove you to say, like,
Yeah.
yes, I need to get this help?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's very hard for me to remember that time because once again, I think trauma does really interesting things with your memory. And then I was also, definitely using alcohol as a coping mechanism and
Mhm.
smoking weed and stuff. But for me, the original therapist I got was recommended to me by a friend who really liked her. So I reached out, but I've had, 4 or 5 therapists since then with all my moving and,
Mhm.
trying new modalities. And my strategy is using Psychology Today. They have a really great directory of therapists and like using the filters to find someone who is specialized in trauma.
Mhm.
And then kind of going on their website or going on their little profile and just reading what they say and seeing like, does that resonate with me? Does that sound like a good match? And then definitely doing like a consultation to see, if you vibe with them and, if it sounds like a good fit. I think if you start reading books about trauma recovery, you will start, or, consuming content like mine or therapists or whatever, you start kind of you learn more language about trauma
Mhm.
recovery. So you might learn stuff like the nervous system states or trauma responses or attachment styles or stuff like that. And so you can see if like you bring those topics up, if the therapist, is like, oh yeah, like I specialize in that, or, so I think the more you learn a little bit for yourself, the easier it can get. But
Mhm.
when it comes to kind of like that obstacle to getting help, um, I think since now I am a helping practitioner who has a therapist, who's had multiple coaches, who like has had body workers, like it's something that I have to kind of like rewind and remember the
Yeah.
resistance to doing it, because
Mhm.
for me it's like I'm so grateful for those people, and I'm just like, I am paying you to hold space for me, and like that feels really mutually good, I guess. Like I don't feel shame about it, I don't feel guilt or anything. um but I would say just kind of remember that, like, when you have a car issue, even if you're a mechanic, you might take it to, okay, that's a bad example, but most of us aren't mechanics. So if you have a car issue, you're probably going to go take your car to a mechanic because you're like,
Mhm.
yeah, sure, I could try to DIY this and like watch YouTube videos, but odds are a professional is going to be able to support me in this process much better than I can myself.
Mhm.
So it's kind of the same thing. It's like we can't be expected to hold space for our own trauma. Like I am a
Mhm.
trauma practitioner and I go to therapy because, you can know all the tools in the world, but the therapeutic relationship of having someone sit with you and offer that kind of compassionate space and like mirror back what you're feeling, or just
Yeah.
offer kind of a safe, regulated person, that is really invaluable. And it's hard to, when I'm even talking to prospective clients, try to put the value on that, because I can tell you all the things I can teach you or all the things I know, but it's actually the relationship that can be the most healing thing when you've
Totally.
had so many destructive relationships in the past.
Mhm.
So those are some words of support I can offer, and also know that if you're looking for a therapist or considering it, it's okay if it takes time. And, I'm proud of you for doing that, because it
Yeah,
takes courage.
absolutely. It really, really does. And you actually, it made me think, because you mentioned earlier how in college, like you didn't even know what to do with the idea of being with a securely attached person.
Right.
Like you obviously didn't have language for that,
Yeah.
but it can be, like you said, having a compassionate, regulated witness, someone that's with you,
Yep.
is very healing. And
Yep.
in the context of therapy, you kind of expect that.
Yeah.
But can you tell me why someone like you would resist being in a relationship with someone who's secure?
Yeah, great question. Love talking about this, because for me, not knowing why just made me think I am broken and I
Mm-hmm.
am, bad, and there's something wrong with me. And so the simplest way to put it is like our brains and our bodies correlate safety with what is familiar. So if you are really familiar with very chaotic, dysfunctional relationship patterns from your family and or a partner or work or wherever you're at, if you're used to like high highs, low lows, like generally dysfunction, or like constantly being emotionally neglected or physically neglected or constantly being harmed or abused, it's like you can very logically and body somatically know that you don't want that anymore, and you want something stable and you want to feel peace. But like just that will to want peace doesn't make it comfortable, because we are
Mm-hmm.
so used to surviving in the chaos and dysfunction,
Yeah.
that if you meet someone, like even a friend or a new coworker or a partner, that is safe and stable, it can feel super off, it can feel unfamiliar and wrong. And so that might lead you to pushing them away if you're more on the avoidant side of things, and you're just like, nope, you are boring, or like, I don't get you, what, this isn't going to
Mm-hmm.
work. And then you might run headfirst towards someone who is super chaotic and kind of bringing back old patterns that you're used to. Yeah, so that's kind of a simple explanation for why.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. And you have no idea what your role is going to be.
Right. Yeah,
Where
you're like,
like you
who am I supposed to be here? Yeah.
exactly, and that's terrifying because you're so used to playing
Right.
like this part. You know how to keep the peace in chaos. Like
Right.
that's my
Right.
skill set and you don't need my skill set. So
Yeah.
what am I supposed to do with you right now?
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. And it's like really disorienting. And I feel like that's kind of a similar experience that I've been having with um work as well. Or like I
Mm,
can see that happening with people too, is like if you are used to putting out fires all the time, being in a high stress environment, and then you get into a different job or a different living situation or a different lifestyle that is more calm and peaceful, it can feel really like anxiety provoking, and just like the other shoe is going to drop. Like this cannot
mm-hmm,
last. Like this isn't safe. Like even going on a vacation and you're like, I can't relax. Like I cannot
mm-hmm.
do it. It's not because you're broken or like, this is always going to be this way. It's just like new things that are unfamiliar can be really dysregulating, especially when you have trauma or,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, past experiences like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we have to show ourselves so much compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And different things are going to keep
Patience.
showing up years down the road, or you're like, this
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Right. Such a good point. Yeah.
But to have those tools to know, like, I can change the way that my body is responding to this. I just like need to work through that, which I know is the tools that you give to so many people. But it brings me to like just some of what you've been sharing about your past couple of years. Whatever you're comfortable with sharing about that, I'd love to know because it's
Yeah.
really encouraging. I think even for me, it's encouraging. We do all this work and we're in this space of helping other people recover and understand trauma language and all of those
Yeah.
things. And then, you know, I'll hit a wall where I'm struggling with something again. I'm like,
Sure.
what the heck?
Yeah.
But it's such a normal part of the process. And I think the way that you've normalized that has been really awesome.
Thank you.
So can you share a little bit just your evolution of the past year and a half or
Yeah.
so?
Yeah. Great. Well, I think, yeah, like coupled with that, not exactly answering your question, but just kind of speaking to the fact that healing isn't linear. Healing is very spiralic and kind of layered,
Mhm.
where I still am like very resistant to the language of fully healed or saying I
Mhm.
had CPTSD and now I don't.
Right.
Because while I don't resonate with like the majority of the symptoms anymore, I feel like at this point, my trauma has become sort of a form of neurodivergence where
Mhm.
I will always have to deal with my brain and my body being a little bit different. And
Yeah.
maybe that's not true. Maybe when I'm 40 or 50, I truly will be completely regulated and like a normal person that never was traumatized. But at this point, it's been very helpful for me to just accept that yes, like my nervous system was very much altered because I went through developmental trauma that was very
Mhm.
severe, and like
Yeah.
that's okay, and it's okay if it comes back or you get a big trigger out of nowhere or you deal with symptoms that you think you got over. I think so much about the culture that we live in, at least here in the United States, is focused on moving forward and progressing. And that's even within the nature of capitalism, is like the more the better, like
Mhm.
constantly consuming more and more and improving all the time. And so
Mhm.
if you are someone living with a chronic illness, a mental illness, a physical illness, something that is complicated and not like you can't treat with a antibiotic and it's gone, you know, it can feel so shameful to have to keep tending to yourself after years and years and years. And especially when it's mental and you think, I should be over this by now.
Mhm.
That's not the way trauma works. That's not the way a lot of illnesses work in general. So um, I think giving compassion for myself has been one of the most pivotal things to ultimately feeling better and healing, because I'm not forcing and pressuring myself to get over it at a rate that isn't authentic or possible. Um, but yeah, as far as the last year and a half go, I think some of the biggest shifts I've made were, so I started this business in 2020. Right now we're talking it's 2023. And when I set out, I was like incredibly excited and eager and doing a lot of, business education through the form of like masterminds and courses, and really just like hyper fixating on the business.
Mhm.
And all the effort and the will and the determination I put into it, combined with my privilege as someone that was able to, make a career switch like that, worked. Like my business took off from the moment I launched it. I was able to make a sustainable income
Mhm.
and, support myself. And throughout 2021, I was kind of just on that track and like constantly going through patterns of burning out and having really
Yeah.
successful launches and feeling absolutely no satisfaction whatsoever. And just like on this cycle of chasing more success, or, thinking if I get this income level or if I have this sustainable whatever like
Mhm.
income, then I will be happy. And I reached every goal that I had and I never felt happy. Like I would
Yeah.
have
Wow.
fleeting moments. And here's what's, during doing the actual coaching work, I loved it, because if I
Mhm.
think if I didn't, then I would be like, okay, this isn't right for me. But I love the work that I do. It was just like when I was marketing things or selling or launching or doing all that stuff that comes with entrepreneurship, I was just kind of always anxious and like
Yeah.
waking up with feelings of dread and like all this stuff. And so at the end of the year of 2021, I started seeing a naturopath and we did some testing of my hormone levels because I was also
Mhm.
having really bad PMS, possibly
Mm.
PMDD.
Yeah.
So with that, the results back or my cortisol levels were like super high
Wow.
in the morning, which would lead to that feeling of dread, like from the moment I woke
Mhm.
up, just feeling so anxious and stressed. So I got on some medication and supplements to treat that, and also did a lot of work with my therapist around like um, trusting the unknown, which is a huge thing for all the survivors listening. That can be incredibly difficult. And I felt like when I started my business, all my life was so incredibly secure that I could handle the unknown of entrepreneurship. But yeah, I think that was the main thing that was constantly making me anxious and unsatisfied, was you are always generating your own income with as an entrepreneur. Um, and so there's just a lot of unknown, and I just
Mhm.
was not able to tolerate that. And so with the kind of dual like body and mental health treatment that I was working through, 2022 I just had like a major shift where I had, my first launch in March that I was not freaking out every day. Like, I
Wow.
had moments of anxiety, like, of course, but it was remarkable. And I kept kind of waiting for like, okay, when are you going to start spiraling? And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't. And so it was just like, I can't believe this is happening. And
Wow.
I took off a month of work to go to Europe, which was phenomenal and so grateful to be able to do that. And, once again, I didn't freak out. I was able to tolerate, taking time off, which was another thing that was really hard for me. The first year and a half was like, I could not take time off. I like was constantly thinking about emails and marketing and posting and whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, 2022, I think I kind of built a lot more resilience and tolerance for holding space for the unknown and the concept of being an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just kind of baffled by it, because I know, like, my therapist constantly reminds me, like, girl, like, you have been doing this work. This didn't just fall into your lap, but it really just felt, I feel now like I'm at a level of mental health that I really never thought I'd get to.
Oh,
I'm just, yeah, like I 2022 was like the best year of my life, I believe,
oh,
since I was a child, and maybe better than
wow.
that. And it's like, that feels really weird to say, but it's true. So yeah, that's kind of the big shift I had in the last year and a half. And I'm, yeah, trying not to hold too tight to it and be like, this is going to leave you. It's like, okay, like the work paid off. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it works.
Mhm. It's very exciting.
That is so encouraging,
Thank
actually.
you.
I think it's very, very cool that you kind of got to that place. And I would be curious to know, like, for 2023, what are some of the things that you've put in place for yourself to kind of maintain this level
Yeah.
of mental health?
Hey, yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. Well, I think, continuing to stay on my treatment plan, even when I'm like, do I need these supplements? Like, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
nope, keep buying them. Like, they are working for your body. So stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that is for sure a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've really leaned into my creative side and like tried to give myself more space for play. And I've also really leaned into like real life friend connections. I think that's
Yeah.
another thing that I was really deprived of, as we all were, most of us
Mm-hmm.
with COVID,
Yeah.
was just not seeing anyone. And I'm always like a 50-50 introvert extrovert on the quizzes,
Mm-hmm.
but with COVID, my introvert needs are met. Working from home, I got my alone time. I have my nice mornings by myself, whatever. My extrovert needs were like really like depleted and just not being met. So luckily I met some more friends, and I've been able to like make more plans to like hang out and see people more often, which I think is really critical for me, because I can get so obsessive, so ambitious, Enneagram 3 kind of energy,
Mm-hmm.
for anyone who knows what that is, just like really focused on work and success and doing the most. And so I
Mm-hmm.
need to be aware of that and find ways for me to just create and play and have fun instead of being so dialed into work. So
Mm-hmm.
continuing with that, yeah, I have some really exciting trips planned for this year. We're getting married, so we're going on a honeymoon,
Yay.
doing a bachelorette party, so stuff like that. And then yeah, I do have, my work kind of planned in this what should be a sustainable way, with the balance of one-to-one clients and courses and like my membership community and stuff like that. So yeah, but I mean, both last year and this year I lowered my money expectations from 2021, and so I made 20% less, which is pretty significant, but was like
Mm.
1,000% happier. So
Hey, it's
good.
a good
Yeah.
trade-off.
It's so great.
Definitely worth
Like,
it.
oh my God. Yeah, it's a big thing
Absolutely.
to learn.
Yeah. So great. And I
Thanks.
think it is true. Like, we all need to get back to being able to focus on in person, like real people.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm grateful for the technology that we've had the last few years to be able to
Totally.
connect us with people and keep us less lonely. But we've lost somewhat some of those skills of like, oh,
Yeah.
like, let's interact with
Yeah.
human beings. And I know for our nervous systems and just for our mental health in general, being with an actual person
Yeah.
is a big deal. So that was a
Right.
takeaway for me for sure. Is like, yeah,
Right.
leaning into that this year is going to be very, very important. And
Right.
congratulations on getting married.
Thanks.
That's really exciting. I know you guys must have done a lot of work
Yeah.
to just stay together. And like, what has that experience been like for you?
Yeah.
Just going from all this toxicity to someone who's safe and secure.
Yeah, great question that I talk about a lot and I'm happy to touch on, of course. Yeah, so I had to do just like an incredible amount of work to not just flee
Mm-hmm.
or, hate myself as a coping mechanism or whatever. Like I had to find a way to rework all these thoughts that I was having about myself from really shameful to, based in like self-acceptance, self-love, compassion. Um, so yeah, I we were long distance for almost 2 years when I moved to California. And that was really critical for me to just kind of get some space to myself and not just
Mm-hmm.
like merge myself with another person. And I'm really grateful that he was willing to make that work.
Yeah.
And then we moved to Portland at the same time, approximately, and then we moved in together a couple months after that. And yeah, I feel like the biggest things I've had to learn are how to be direct and name what I'm needing instead of just
Mm,
anticipating him to read my mind. And I feel like
yeah.
that's a big thing for folks who come from any kind of like anxious or codependent like family structures or relationships, is like realizing that while I might be able to read and predict and even over predict what someone needs from me and overgive, other people don't live like that, and they aren't as enmeshed with people that they love,
Mm-hmm.
so which is very healthy. So I've really learned a lot from him of how to, yeah, just name what I'm needing, and I think that's a really big communication skill. um and yeah, like we've had to go through lots of stuff when it comes to like physical boundaries, intimacy, and like me when I was in really hard times and just like I can't be touched, like I'm so triggered by everything,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
working through that, like reaffirming, finding other ways for like emotional intimacy and connection that aren't always like physical. um and then yeah, like just finding, I mean, I think a strong suit we've always had is like having fun together and like
Mm,
being best friends. Like that's one of those things that it's like we always like each other. Obviously there's times when we're like annoyed with each other, but we're not that like hot and cold couple that I used to be in, where it was like passionate love, quote unquote,
mm-hmm.
and destructive um upset. It's very
Mm-hmm.
stable, and so I've had to learn how to tolerate that and be like, it is safe and it is not boring to be stable. Like it is good, and if you need a little drama in
Mm.
your life, there is so many TV shows and books you can go get those needs met, or you can listen to your friends talk about their dating life or
Uh-huh.
whatever. You don't need to create chaos in your relationship to be fulfilled. So yeah,
What?
I
Oh my
know, right?
gosh. It's
I know it's tough,
amazing.
but I know I feel like it was so big for me to realize like you can just read drama, like crazy stories, whatever, to cope with this desire for chaos. You don't have to
Yeah.
instigate that in your
Yeah.
life.
That's a really good point, actually. I've never heard someone like express that before because
Yeah,
it's true. It's not like you can just turn off the switch of
right.
needing some kind of, I don't know, stimulation.
Stimulation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, it's a thing. It's almost like an
Yeah.
access need of like, it reminds me a lot of folks with ADHD, the way they talk about being understimulated. Like, I don't
Mm.
have ADHD, but I can definitely relate to that feeling of like, I'm just like itchy for like something to
Yeah.
happen. Like, I'm bored,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, sometimes you need to find a healthy way to that
Hmm.
need met, or like do something new that's kind of hard for you, like a dance class or something that like puts you
Yeah.
out of your element. Like, that can be a great way to, yeah, like get a little like, ooh, like a little drama or like,
Yeah.
healthy anxiety, I guess, or nervousness,
Yeah.
but not like blow up your relationship.
Totally. And then be able to go home and just actually relax and breathe. Like,
Yes.
how
Yes.
amazing is that?
I know.
That's
Exactly.
amazing. Yeah. I'm sure like that your story encourages your clients a lot.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I
it is
hope
really
so.
beautiful to see like that it's possible to go from where you were to where you are. And
Thanks.
I love
That
that.
means a lot.
I love
Thank
that
you.
so much. I would love for you to just share kind of like different ways people can work with you, what your
Yeah.
programs are, how to get connected with you on Instagram, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. Yeah, so everything that I offer is hosted on my website, emmymarie.com. And you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Blooming with Emmy. I have lots of stuff. I have free resources. I have a low-cost membership community. I have courses. I have free workshops, and I have one-to-one coaching if you're looking for kind of that high-touch one-on-one support. So yeah, head to my website. You can get all the details there, and feel free to reach out if you are interested in working together in any capacity. I'm happy to chat.
Awesome. Beautiful. And I'll be sure to include all of that in the show notes too. So
Sweet.
if you're listening right now and you're like, I want to know more about this girl and work with her, go click the links in the show notes and you can connect with her that way. She does amazing, amazing content on Instagram.
Thanks.
So you'll be encouraged just by that. And it's been so fun just to follow you and get to know you through that medium and see the work that you're doing. I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing. I know you're impacting so many lives, and what
Thank
you're
you.
doing is important. I'm
Well,
also
right back at
very
you.
happy.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you,
mean, same
friend.
to you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. You know, it's really cool that we can use something that harmed us to help other people.
Yes.
Like, I'm glad that you and I are healing personally, but just the fact that we're able to take that and help other people too is like
Yeah.
just such a gift. So
Yeah,
I'm
and I would
very
love to just
grateful.
offer something to people who are like either like I would love to help other people, but that does not feel like even remotely possible for me right now, or like maybe don't have the inclination to help other people. Like, I just want to remind you that you in no way have to use your trauma to help others.
Mm,
I personally believe that if you, first of all, we all have to focus on healing if we want to do anything,
absolutely.
whatever. Like, so before I did all this, I was working intensely on healing while, working a full-time job for years.
Mhm.
And there is no moral value of the kind of work that I do compared to if you, for example, work on healing trauma and then you have kids and you break a cycle in your lineage. That can be just as powerful and incredible as me helping thousands of people, whatever.
Yes.
So I just want to offer that like any effort you put into your healing work, even if it only benefits you, is incredibly important, and you deserve to be proud of yourself, and we are proud of you.
100%. I absolutely agree. Coming to be the most whole version of yourself is such a beautiful gift, no matter what it is you technically do. And it's going to just, I mean, it's going to change your world. And that is so important because we all deserve to heal, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for your time. It's been such a joy chatting with you as always.
Same to
And
you.
hopefully you'll be getting connected with some of these listeners, and I'll just continue to cheer you on from the sidelines and watch what you're doing. And again, thank you for your time.
Yes. Thank you so much.
See you soon.
All right.
Bye.